Captain Kekstar floated in his command chair, his blue skin shimmering under the soft lights of the bridge. His large black eyes studied the sensor readings for the third time that day. Something was wrong. The energy patterns on his screen made no sense according to everything he knew about space travel. "Run the scan again," he told his crew member, a young Zellari named Vexlin. "Sir, we have checked the readings 12 times already. The instruments are working perfectly," Vexlin replied through their mental link. All Zellari could speak with their minds, but Kekstar preferred old-fashioned voice commands on his ship. The readings showed massive energy bursts coming from the dark edge of known space. These bursts were unlike anything in the Galactic database. They were too organized to be natural, too powerful to come from any known ship design, and too strange to be explained by current science. Kekstar had been patrolling this sector for 15 years. He knew every asteroid, every gas cloud, every piece of space junk that drifted through this area. But these energy signatures were completely new. They appeared 3 days ago and had been growing stronger each day. "Send the data to Council Central," he ordered. "Let them figure out what this means." 3 hours later, Kekstar received his reply. The message came from Admiral Zorntik, head of Galactic Security. The text was short and dismissive. Readings appear to be natural phenomenon. Continue standard patrol. No further investigation needed. Kekstar stared at the message in disbelief. Natural phenomenon? The energy patterns showed clear signs of artificial construction. They pulsed in regular intervals, changed direction, in ways that defied physics, and seemed to be moving with purpose toward the inner systems. Meanwhile, on the mining world of Kepler 442b, Dr. Elena Martinez was having her own strange day. She worked for the Karathi Science Institute, studying old rock formations to understand galactic history. The Karathi were known throughout the galaxy for their love of knowledge and their careful record-keeping. Elena had been digging deep into the planet's crust when her mining laser hit something that should not exist. Buried under millions of years of rock and dirt, she found a piece of metal. The metal was smooth, perfectly preserved, and covered in symbols that looked familiar but impossible. She cleaned the metal carefully and took pictures of the symbols. Then she ran the images through the Galactic Translation database. The computer worked for several minutes before giving her an answer that made her heart race. The symbols matched ancient human writing. Elena knew this was impossible. Humans were just stories told to children, legends about a race of beings who could build great ships and travel between stars. Every species in the galaxy had some version of human myths. The Threks told stories of brave human warriors. The Valdans sang songs about human explorers. The Zellari shared tales of human wisdom, but humans were not real. They were just stories, like dragons or magic. Everyone knew that. Elena looked at the metal piece again. The symbols were definitely there, carved deep into the surface. According to the database, they spelled out words in English, the mythical human language. The words said, "Property of Earth Colonial Survey." She packaged the metal carefully and sent it to her supervisor on the Karathi homeworld. Along with the package, she sent a detailed report of where she found it and what the symbols meant. She expected her supervisor to laugh at her or tell her she made a mistake. Instead, she received an urgent message 3 days later. "Pack everything. You are being transferred to Council Central immediately. Bring all evidence. Tell no one." Back in space, Captain Kekstar continued to monitor the strange energy readings. They were getting stronger and closer to inhabited systems. He had filed 17 reports with Council Central, and each time he received the same response. Natural phenomenon. Continue patrol. No investigation needed. But Kekstar was not stupid. He had fought in the border wars against the Threx 20. Years ago, he had seen real combat and real weapons. These energy signatures looked like the readings from massive ship engines. But unlike any ship engines in the Galactic database, the patterns reminded him of something else, something from his childhood. His grandmother used to tell him stories about the ancient times, before the Galactic Council existed. She spoke of great wars and powerful ships that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. She told tales of a race that vanished long ago, leaving only legends behind. The Mythmakers, she called them. They built ships that could crack planets and weapons that could destroy stars. But they grew tired of war and disappeared into the dark between galaxies. Young Kekstar had always thought these were just stories. But now, staring at his sensor readings, he wondered if his grandmother's tales might be true. On Council Central, the greatest minds from 7 different species were gathering in secret. They had Elena's metal fragment, Kekstar energy readings, and dozens of other reports that had been dismissed as impossible or unimportant. Ambassador Veltar of the Valdens held the metal piece in her crystalline hands. Her people could sense the age of objects by touching them, and this metal was older than their oldest records. But it was not natural. It had been made by intelligent beings using technology that exceeded anything in current galactic civilization. The energy signatures matched theoretical models for quantum fold drive systems, reported Dr. Nim Lek of the Korathi. But such technology is beyond our current capabilities. We have never seen it actually used. General Zix of the Threx military was less interested in science than in threats. If someone has ships with this technology, they could attack any world in the galaxy before we could respond. We need to prepare our defenses. Prepare for what? Asked Veltar. We do not even know if these readings represent ships or some natural occurrence we do not understand. The metal suggests otherwise, Dr. Nimlek pointed out. The symbols are definitely artificial, and they match the ancient human language databases perfectly. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the human legends, but no one believed they were real. Humans were myths, stories told across the galaxy for thousands of years. But the evidence was mounting that maybe, just maybe, the myths were based on truth. As the council members debated what to do next, Captain Kekstar's latest report arrived. The energy signatures had suddenly stopped moving toward the inner systems. Instead, they seemed to be gathering at a single point in space, as if preparing for something big. Something was coming, and the galaxy was not ready for it. The warning alarm screamed across Threx Prime as massive energy readings appeared on every sensor screen in the system. Admiral Vitor's 6 arms moved quickly across his command console, trying to understand what was happening in his home. System's outer edge. Report. He clicked in the sharp language of his insect-like people. Unknown vessel emerging from hyperspace, sir. Size is enormous. Reading is larger than our biggest battle cruiser, his sensor operator replied, her voice shaking with fear. On the main screen, space itself seemed to tear open. A swirling vortex of energy appeared where empty space had been moments before. Then, slowly, a ship began to emerge from the hole in space. The vessel was unlike anything in the galactic database. Its hull was smooth and gray, with clean lines. That suggested both beauty and deadly purpose. Strange symbols covered its sides, and it moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. As it completed its exit from hyperspace, the energy vortex closed behind it with a flash of brilliant light. Sir, the ship is trying to communicate with us, reported the communications officer. Put it through, Admiral Victor ordered. Static filled the bridge for a moment, then a clear voice spoke in a language that sounded ancient and strange. The computer worked quickly to translate the words, and text appeared on their screens. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth. Ship Liberty. We come in peace and request permission to approach your world for diplomatic contact. The bridge fell silent. Every Threx on the ship stared at the translation. Earth was a word from the old legends. United Earth was mentioned in myths about the mythmakers. But it was impossible. Humans were not real. Admiral Victor had fought in many battles during his long career. He had defended Threx space from pirates and raiders. He had seen many tricks and lies from enemies. This had to be some kind of trap. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself properly. State your real origin and purpose, he transmitted back. The response came quickly. Admiral, we are humans from the Terran Colonial Authority. We are the people your legends call the Mythmakers. We have returned to rejoin galactic civilization after 3 centuries of isolation. Victor's compound eyes focused on the ship. Image. Humans. The legendary race that supposedly built impossible ships and fought great wars among the stars. The stories said they had vanished long ago, but stories were just stories. Sir, his weapons officer interrupted, this could be an invasion force. We should alert the fleet and prepare defenses. Victor considered his options. If this was really a human ship, it represented the return of a legendary race. If it was an enemy using human myths as cover, it was a serious threat to his world. Either way, he needed to respond with strength. Signal the home fleet, all ships. Converge on these coordinates. Weapons charged but not targeted, he ordered. Then he opened communication again. Unknown vessel calling itself Liberty. You will stop your approach immediately and submit to inspection. On the bridge of the Liberty, Commander Jake Morrison watched as Threx warships began appearing on his sensors. He had expected this reaction. The mission briefings had warned him that the galaxy might not welcome humanity's return with open arms. Sir, 16 Threx battle cruisers taking position around us. They have weapons powered, but not locked on, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Carl Weber. Signal our peaceful intentions again, Morrison ordered, and get me Captain Hayes on the comm. A moment later, the image of Captain Lisa Hayes appeared on his screen. She was commanding the Liberty, while Morrison handled diplomatic duties. Hayes had served in the Colonial Navy for 20 years and had seen combat against hostile alien species during humanity's expansion into unknown space. Jake, they do not trust us, she said simply. I count over 20 ships now, with more arriving. Every minute. The plan was always to expect suspicion, Morrison replied. We just need to show them we are not a threat. Sir, Lieutenant Weber interrupted. The Threx flagship is demanding we lower our shields and prepare to be boarded. Morrison frowned. Lowering shields would leave them vulnerable, but refusing might start a fight they wanted to avoid. Signal that we will lower shields if they guarantee safe passage for diplomatic talks. The reply from Admiral Victor was swift and harsh. You will comply immediately or face the consequences. On the Threx flagship, tension filled the bridge. The unknown ship had not moved to comply with orders. Its shields remained active, and deep scans showed it carried weapon systems that did not match anything in their database. Sir, I recommend we disable their engines with a warning shot, suggested the weapons officer. Admiral Victor made his decision. Target their engine section. Minimum power. Fire. The Threx beam weapons struck the Liberty's rear shields. Energy cascaded across the protective barrier, lighting up space with brilliant flashes. But when the light faded, the human ship was completely undamaged. Impossible, whispered the sensor operator. Our weapons had no effect at all. On the Liberty, alarms sounded as the shields absorbed Threx attack. Captain Hayes moved to the tactical station and studied the readings. Shields at 98%. Their weapons are less powerful than we expected, she reported to Morrison. They fired first, Lieutenant Weber pointed out. We have the right to defend ourselves. Morrison knew this moment would decide everything. If they fought back too hard, It would prove to the galaxy that humans were aggressive invaders. If they did nothing, it might encourage more attacks. Target their weapon systems only. Disable, do not destroy, he ordered. The Liberty's response was swift and precise. Beams of energy lanced out toward the Threx ships, striking their weapon. Arrays with surgical accuracy. One by one, the alien warships found their guns overloaded and offline, but their hulls undamaged and their crews unharmed. Admiral Victor stared in shock as his entire fleet was neutralized in less than 30 seconds. The human ship had fired 24 precise shots and disabled every weapon in his force without killing a single Threx. Sir, all our weapons are offline, but life support and engines are undamaged, reported his tactical officer. The communication system activated again, and Commander Morrison's voice filled the bridge. Admiral, we did not want to fight, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. We disabled your weapons to stop this conflict before it started. Our medical teams are standing by if you have injured crew members. Victor realized he was facing technology far beyond anything his people possessed. These beings, whether they were really humans or not, had just proven they could destroy his entire fleet if they chose to. But instead of destroying, they had shown mercy. Open a channel to Council Central, he ordered quietly. Priority 1 emergency signal. Minutes later, Captain Hayes activated the Liberty's most powerful communication array and broadcast a message on all galactic frequencies. Her voice reached every inhabited world, every space station, every ship in the galaxy. People of the galaxy, this is Captain Lisa Hayes of the United Earthship Liberty. We are the children of Earth, and we have returned. We seek peace and friendship with all civilized races. We remember the old alliances and hope to build new ones. The legends you have heard about humans are true. We are real, we are here, and we want to rejoin the community of stars. The message sent shockwaves across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, people stopped what they were doing to listen. In the council chambers, emergency sessions were called. In deep space, ships changed course to investigate. The age of legends was over. The age of human return had begun. The great council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 7 different species shouted, clicked, and hummed at each other in dozens of languages. The translation systems worked overtime to keep up with the flood of angry words. Filling the air. Ambassador Veltar of the Valdans stood at her crystal podium, her translucent body glowing with stress patterns. As the current council president, she was trying to restore order to the emergency session. But every species had strong opinions about the human situation. Order! We must have order. She called out, her voice ringing like crystal bells. Slowly, the noise died down. Representatives took their seats and waited for the debate to begin. Everyone knew this was the most important council session in 300 years. We are here to discuss the return of the species known as humans, Veltar announced. 3 days ago, their ship appeared in Threx space and demonstrated military capabilities far beyond our current technology. They claim to be descendants of the mythmakers mentioned in our ancient records. General Zix of the Threx military stood up, his 6 arms spread wide in anger. They attacked our home fleet without warning. They disabled 24 warships. In seconds. This is not diplomacy. This is an invasion force showing us their power. That is not accurate, interrupted Dr. Nimlik of the Karathi. A scholarly alien adjusted his reading glasses and consulted his datapad. According to the official report, Threx forces fired first. The humans only responded when attacked. They refused to lower their shields when ordered, General Zix argued. They showed hostile intent from the beginning. Ambassador Melkor of the Zentari spoke up, her scaled face showing concern. The real question is not who fired first. The question is whether these beings are really humans or some unknown species using human mythology to confuse us. Veltar activated the main display screen. Images appeared showing the metal fragment found by Dr. Elena Martinez, the energy, readings detected by Captain Kextar, and detailed scans of the human ship. Our scientists have been studying all available evidence, she explained. The metal fragment contains symbols that match ancient human writing perfectly. The ship design uses principles mentioned in old human technical manuals we thought were fictional. The language they speak is identical to recorded human speech patterns from our historical archives. Dr. Nimlek stood and projected his own data. I have spent the last 3 days researching human legends across all our cultures. Every species has stories about humans, but we always assumed they were myths. However, the details in these stories are remarkably consistent across different worlds and different time periods. Consistent myths prove nothing, General Zix objected. Stories spread from one species to another. That does not make them true. But what if they are true? Asked Ambassador Tekron of the Mycelians, his fungal body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Our oldest records mention a time before the current council existed. They speak of an earlier galactic community that included many more species than we know today. Deltar nodded. The archives do mention something called the Ancient Alliance. According to those records, humans were members of that alliance until something called the Great Silence occurred. The Great Silence, Dr. Nimlek repeated, consulting his notes. References to this event appear in the oldest texts from every member species. It happened approximately 350 years ago. After that date, all mentions of humans disappear from official records. The chamber fell quiet as everyone considered this information. Finally, Ambassador Gorvik of the Saurians spoke up. His reptilian voice was slow and thoughtful. If humans truly existed and were part of an ancient alliance, why did they leave? And why are they returning now? Before anyone could answer, an aide rushed into the chamber and whispered urgently to Veltar. Her crystal form brightened with surprise. I have just received word that a human fleet has arrived at Station Harmony, she announced. They are requesting permission to send a diplomatic representative to address this council. The chamber erupted in new arguments. Some representatives demanded the humans be turned away immediately. Others insisted they should be heard. General Zix wanted to send military ships to escort the human fleet away from council space. We cannot make decisions about humans without hearing what they have to say, Veltar declared, using her authority as council president. I am authorizing their representative to address us tomorrow. 6 hours later, Admiral Kevin Brooks stepped off his shuttle onto Station Harmony. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm blue eyes. Behind him walked 2 other humans, both wearing the blue uniforms of what they called the Terran Colonial Authority. Station Harmony was the largest structure built by the galactic community. It housed the council chambers, diplomatic quarters for all member species, and served as neutral ground for important meetings. As Admiral Brooks walked through the corridors, aliens of every description stopped to stare at him. Most had never expected to see a real human. They whispered to each other in dozens of languages, pointing at his strange appearance. Humans looked different from every other known species. They had no scales, no fur, no chitin, no crystal growth. Their skin was soft, and their bodies seemed fragile compared to most galactic races. But Admiral Brooks walked with the confidence of someone who had commanded fleets across multiple star systems. His aide, Colonel Pete Anderson, carried a sealed case containing official documents. His translator, Dr. Nancy Kim, studied her tablet as they prepared for the most important diplomatic meeting in centuries. They were escorted to guest quarters designed for oxygen-breathing species. The rooms were comfortable but simple. Admiral Brooks spent the evening reviewing his speech and thinking about everything that had led to this moment. Humanity had not left the galaxy by choice. The Great Silence had been caused by a terrible discovery. Earth scientists had detected signs of an ancient enemy moving toward inhabited space. Rather than panic the other species, human leaders had decided to evacuate their people to the galactic edge and prepare defenses in secret. For 3 centuries, humans had built new colonies, developed new technology, and waited for the enemy to arrive. They had hoped the threat would pass them by. They had wanted to rejoin galactic civilization eventually, but only when it was safe. Now the enemy was coming, and humanity could not face it alone. The time for isolation was over. The next morning, Admiral Brooks stood before the assembled council. Representatives from 7 species watched him carefully. Some seemed curious, others suspicious, a few openly hostile. "Honorable representatives," he began, "I am Admiral Kevin Brooks of the Terran Colonial Authority. I come before you today to request that humanity be readmitted to the galactic community." He paused and looked around the chamber. "We did not leave by choice 350 years ago. We left because we discovered a threat that required us to prepare in secret. We had spent these centuries building the strength needed to face this threat, but we cannot face it alone. Admiral." Brooks activated a holographic display showing star charts and sensor readings. "The enemy that drove us into hiding is returning. They are called the Devourers, and they consume entire star systems to fuel their expansion. Our long-range sensors show their scouts are already entering the outer rim of the galaxy." The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. If Brooks was telling the truth, every world in the galaxy was in danger. "We offer our alliance to defend the galaxy we all call home," Admiral Brooks concluded. "But we need your help to succeed." The debate that followed would determine this fate of trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. Dr. Amy Foster stood nervously in the center of the council chamber, her hands shaking slightly as she prepared to share the most terrifying information in galactic history. Around her, representatives from 7 alien species waited to hear what humanity had discovered during their 3 centuries of isolation. Admiral Brooks had introduced her as humanity's chief xenobiologist and their leading expert on the ancient enemy. For 30 years, Dr. Foster had studied every piece of evidence about the Devourers. She had hoped this day would never come, but now the galaxy needed to know the truth. "Honorable council members," she began, her voice growing stronger as she spoke, "what I am about to show you will change everything we thought we knew about galactic history." She activated the holographic display system. Images appeared in the air above the council floor, showing strange metallic structures that seemed to twist and move even in the still photographs. "These are Devourer scout ships," Dr. Foster explained. "We found the wreckage of one on a dead world at the galaxy's edge 15 years ago. The technology is unlike anything we have ever seen. Their ships are part machine and part living creature." Ambassador Veltar leaned forward, her crystal body reflecting the light from the holograms. "How do you know these belong to the beings you call Devourers?" Dr. Foster changed the display to show ancient stone carvings and metal tablets. "We found these records on 17 different dead worlds scattered across the outer rim. Everyone tells the same story. A race of beings that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing behind but empty space." The chamber grew quiet as the representatives studied the images. The stone carvings showed terrible scenes of planets being torn apart by massive ships. The metal tablets contained writing in dozens of different alien languages, all describing the same catastrophe. "According to these records," Dr. Foster continued, "the Devourers appeared in this galaxy over 2,000 years ago. They destroyed hundreds of civilizations before moving on to other galaxies. The survivors thought they were gone forever." General Zix of the Threx stood up, his 6 arms clicking with agitation. "If this enemy is so terrible, why did humans not warn us 3 centuries ago? Why did you disappear instead of sharing this information? Admiral Brooks stepped forward to answer. Because we were not certain the threat was real. Our scientists found only fragments of evidence and conflicting reports. We made the decision to investigate quietly while preparing for the worst possible outcome. And what did your investigation discover? Asked Dr. Nimlek of the KORAT High. Dr. Foster activated a new set of images showing deep space sensor readings and mathematical projections. We learned that the Devourers follow a pattern. They sweep through a galaxy, consume what they need, then move on to the next galaxy. But they always return to check on their previous hunting grounds. She paused and looked around the chamber. Our calculations show they are overdue for their return visit to this galaxy. They should have arrived 50 years ago. Ambassador Melkor of the Zentari hissed softly. Are you saying they are coming back now? They are already here, Dr. Foster replied grimly. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected Devourer energy signatures in the void sector. Long-range sensors show at least 40 scout ships moving toward inhabited systems. The chamber erupted in shocked voices and frightened sounds from multiple species. Veltar had to call for orders several times before the noise died down. Doctor Gorvin of the Aquatic Union spoke up, his voice bubbling through his translation unit. How do we know we can trust this information? Humans disappeared for 3 centuries and now return with claims of ancient enemies. This could be an elaborate deception. Show them the Kepler evidence, Admiral Brooks said quietly. Dr. Foster nodded and activated another display. This one showed the metal fragment found by Dr. Elena Martinez in detailed analysis of the dig site where it was discovered. This piece of human technology was buried under rock formations that are 4 million years old, she explained. But the metal itself is only 350 years old. The only way this is possible is if the planet's crust was completely reformed in a very short time. Dr. Numlek studied the geological data carefully. That would require enormous energy, enough to crack a planet's surface and reform it entirely. Exactly, Dr. Foster confirmed. Kepler 442b was attacked by Devourers during their last visit to this galaxy. The planet survived, but barely. The energy released during the attack buried human artifacts under millions of years of reformed rock. The evidence was becoming harder to deny. Representatives whispered among themselves as they processed the implications. If humans were telling the truth, every world in the galaxy was in immediate danger. Ambassador Gorvik of the Saurians spoke slowly, his ancient voice carrying the weight of his species' long memory. Our oldest legends speak of a time of great darkness when the stars themselves died. We thought these were myths about the end of the universe. They were memories, Dr. Foster said sadly. Memories of the last Devourer attack, passed down through generations until they became legends. Veltar stood up, her crystal form bright with determination. If this threat is real, we must act immediately. What do humans propose we do? Admiral Brooks stepped forward again. We propose a full military alliance between humanity and the Galactic Council. We have technology and ships designed specifically to fight Devourers. But we need your help to protect all inhabited worlds. General Zix made a harsh clicking sound. How do we know your technology will work against these Devourers? You have been isolated for centuries. You have never actually fought them. We have fought them, Dr. Foster said quietly. 12 years ago, a Devourer advanced scout attacked our colony on New Terra. We lost 30,000 people, but we managed to destroy the enemy ship. That battle taught us how their technology works and how to counter it. She activated new images showing the aftermath of the battle. The colony was gone, reduced to a crater of melted rock and twisted metal. But in the center of the destruction lay the wreckage of something that looked like a nightmare made of metal and flesh. The Devourer ship was part biological computer and part advanced machine, Dr. Foster explained. It could adapt to our weapons in real time, learning to defend against whatever we used. Traditional energy weapons become useless after the first. Few shots. Then how did you destroy it? Asked Ambassador Tekran. Admiral Brooks smiled grimly. We used nuclear weapons. Lots of them. Devourers can adapt to energy patterns, but they cannot adapt to raw physical destruction fast enough to survive a nuclear explosion. The chamber fell silent as everyone considered this information. Nuclear weapons were considered primitive technology by most galactic species. The idea that such old-fashioned weapons might be more effective than modern energy systems seemed impossible. Dr. Nimlek was the first to speak. This information must be verified by independent research teams. If humans are correct about this threat, we need to begin immediate preparations for war. There is no time for lengthy verification, Admiral Brooks warned. Our sensors show Devourer scout fleets moving toward the inner systems. They will reach inhabited worlds within weeks. Veltar made the decision that would determine the galaxy's fate. I am calling for an emergency vote. All in favor of authorizing immediate military cooperation with humanity. Indicate now. The vote was close, but it passed. 4 species voted yes, 3 voted no. It was enough to begin preparations, but barely enough to hold the alliance together. As the council session ended, Dr. Foster gathered her data and tried not to think about what was coming. She had spent her entire career studying the Devourers, and she knew the truth that no one wanted to hear. Even with human technology and galactic cooperation, they might already be too late to save the galaxy. The warning came too late. Captain Troy Williams stood on the bridge of the UEC's Defiance, watching in horror as Devourer ships poured through the Proxima Gate like a swarm of metallic locusts. His deep space sensors had detected the enemy fleet only 6 hours ago, but they were already destroying everything in their path. Sir, we count over 200 enemy vessels, reported Lieutenant Sarah Murphy from her sensor station. They are consuming the asteroid mining stations and using the material to build more ships. Troy watched the tactical display as red dots multiplied across the screen. Each dot represented a Devourer ship, and their numbers were growing by the minute. The enemy vessels looked like nightmares made real, with twisted metal hulls that pulsed with organic movement. Signal the Council fleet, he ordered. Tell them we need immediate reinforcement. Admiral Victor of the Threx had brought 30 warships to defend the gate. The Zilari contributed 20 ships with their most advanced weapons. The Valdans sent 15 crystal ships that could coordinate perfectly through their telepathic link. It should have been enough to stop any normal invasion force, but the Devourers were not normal. First wave of Council ships engaging the enemy, reported Lieutenant Murphy. On the main screen, Troy watched as the combined galactic fleet opened fire. Energy beams and plasma cannons lit up space with brilliant colors. For a moment, it seemed like the attack was working. Several Devourer ships exploded under the concentrated fire. Then the enemy began to adapt. Devourer ships changed their hull configuration, growing new armor plates that deflected the Council weapons. Their organic computers analyzed each attack and developed defenses in real time. Within minutes, the same weapons that had destroyed enemy ships were having no effect at all. Sir, the Council fleet is reporting minimal damage to enemy targets, Lieutenant Murphy said, her voice shaking. The Devourers are adapting to their weapons. Troy had expected this. Dr. Foster's research had warned them that traditional energy weapons would become useless once the enemy learned to defend against them. But seeing it happen was still terrifying. Launch nuclear missiles, he ordered. Full spread. Target the largest enemy ships. The Defiance carried 40 nuclear warheads, each one capable of destroying a city. Troy had hoped he would never need to use them, but humanity had learned that nuclear weapons were the only thing. Devourers could not adapt to quickly enough. 20 missiles streaked toward the enemy fleet. The Devourers tried to intercept them with energy beams and defensive systems, but nuclear weapons did not care about shields or armor. They relied on pure destructive force. The explosions lit up space like new stars being born. When the light faded, 15 Devourer ships were gone, reduced to scattered atoms and debris. Direct hits on multiple targets, reported Lieutenant Murphy with relief. Enemy ships destroyed. But Troy's moment of satisfaction was short-lived. The remaining Devourer ships moved to consume the debris from their destroyed companions. Within minutes, they had rebuilt their numbers and added the destroyed ship's knowledge to their collective memory. "Sir, new contacts emerging from hyperspace," called out Ensign Bob Clark from the navigation station. More Devourer fleets arriving. Troy watched in despair as 3 more enemy fleets appeared around the Proxima Gate. Each fleet contained at least 100 ships. The galaxy's defenders were outnumbered 10-1, and the odds were getting worse by the minute. "All ships, this is Captain Williams," he broadcast to the combined fleet. "We cannot win this battle with conventional tactics. Recommend immediate withdrawal to defensive positions around inhabited worlds." Admiral Victor's reply came quickly over the communication system. "Human Captain, we do not retreat from our territory. Threx ships will hold this position." "Admiral, your ships cannot damage the enemy effectively," Troy argued. "They will adapt to your weapons and destroy your fleet. Then we will die with honor." Victor replied stubbornly. Troy watched in frustration as the Threx ships continued their attack. Their weapons had no effect on the adapted Devourer hulls, but they kept firing anyway. The enemy ships began targeting the Threx vessels with weapons that seemed to eat through armor like acid. One by one, the proud Threx warships were destroyed. Admiral Victor's flagship was the last to die, its hull dissolving under Devourer weapons as the Admiral transmitted a final message of defiance. The Zelari ships tried to coordinate a telepathic attack, using their mental powers to confuse enemy targeting systems. For a few minutes, their strategy worked. Devourer ships fired at empty space or attacked each other in confusion, but the enemy adapted to that tactic too. Within an hour, they had developed mental shields that blocked Zelari telepathy completely. The crystal ships of the Valdans lasted longer, using their perfect coordination to avoid enemy fire, but eventually they too were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Captain Williams realized that his small human fleet was now alone against hundreds of enemy ships. His nuclear missiles had done damage, but he only had 20 warheads left, and the Devourers were learning to avoid the worst effects of nuclear explosions. "Sir, Commander Stone requests permission to attempt her experimental tactic," reported Lieutenant Murphy. Troy looked at the tactical display showing the UES Vengeance, commanded by his old friend Rachel Stone. She had been working on a new weapon system based on quantum disruption technology. It was untested and dangerous, but conventional weapons had already proven useless. "Permission granted," Troy said. "All ships provide cover for the Vengeance." Commander Stone maneuvered her ship into position and activated the quantum disruption array. The weapon worked by creating tiny tears in space-time itself, causing matter to simply cease to exist at the quantum level. A beam of twisted space lanced out from the Vengeance and struck a Devourer ship. The enemy vessel didn't explode or burn. It simply vanished, as if it had never existed at all. "Direct hit," reported Stone over the communication channel. "Enemy ship completely destroyed. No debris remaining." For the first time since the battle began, Troy felt hope. The quantum weapons worked because they attacked the fundamental structure of matter itself. There was nothing for the Devourers to adapt to, because the attack destroyed them at a level below their ability to understand or counter, but hope faded quickly when more Devourer fleets continued to arrive. The Vengeance could destroy one ship every few minutes, but hundreds more were appearing every hour. Even with the quantum weapons, humanity was fighting a losing battle. Sir, long-range sensors detect massive energy signatures approaching from multiple directions, reported Ensign Clark. At least 20 more Devourer fleets incoming. Troy realized that this was not just an attack on one system. This was a full-scale invasion of the entire galaxy. The Devourers were striking everywhere at once, overwhelming defenses before anyone could mount an effective resistance. Signal retreat, he ordered reluctantly. All ships fall back to the secondary defense line. We need to warn the inner systems and coordinate a better defense. As the human ships began their withdrawal, Troy watched the Devourer fleet consume everything left in the Proxima system. They ate the wreckage of destroyed ships, consumed the asteroids and space stations, and even began dismantling one of the system's moons to use as building material. The Battle of Proxima Gate was over. The galaxy had lost its first major engagement against the ancient enemy, and things were about to get much worse. The news from Proxima Gate spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every inhabited world knew that the ancient enemy had returned, and that the combined fleets had been defeated. Panic gripped entire star systems as people realized their military forces could not protect them, but something unexpected began to happen in the aftermath of defeat. Instead of falling apart, the galactic community started to come together in ways no one had thought possible. On the Threx homeworld, General Klixner stood before the planetary assembly. His people were known for their pride and their fierce independence. They had never asked other species for help with anything. But the loss of Admiral Victor and the entire home fleet had changed everything. "Fellow Threx," he announced, his 6 arms spread wide, "we have always believed our strength was enough to defend our world. We were wrong. The enemy has shown use that no single species can stand alone against this threat." The assembly hall buzzed with shocked clicks and whistles. A Threx general admitting weakness was almost unheard of. "I am ordering all our manufacturing facilities to begin producing human-designed weapons," Klixner continued. "We will share our industrial capacity with the humans in exchange for quantum disruption technology. Our pride is worth nothing if our people are dead." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The Zelari High Council voted to share their telepathic coordination networks with human fleet commanders. The Valdans offered their crystal technology to improve communication systems. Even the isolated Karathi opened their vast libraries to human scientists seeking better ways to fight the DEVOURERS. Station Harmony. Admiral Brooks worked around the clock to coordinate the new alliance. The station's main conference room had been converted into a war room, with representatives from every species planning the galaxy's defense. "The quantum disruption weapons are effective," reported Dr. Foster, "but we can only build them so fast. Each weapon array requires rare materials that take weeks to manufacture." Ambassador Veltar's crystal body pulsed with determination. "The Valdan mining colonies can increase production of quantum crystals by 300%. We will share our manufacturing secrets if it helps build more weapons." Chancellor Mordoon of the Unified Council studied the strategic displays showing Devourer fleet movements. The enemy was attacking on 17 different fronts, consuming resources and building new ships faster than the defenders could destroy them. "We need a decisive victory," he said. "Something to stop their expansion and give us time to build more defenses." Admiral Brooks pointed to the center of the galaxy on the main display. "Our scientists believe the Devourers are coordinating their attacks from a command ship near the galactic core. If we can destroy that ship, their fleets might lose coordination. That would require getting through thousands of enemy ships, pointed out General Klixner. Not if we use a combined approach, Brooks replied. Human quantum weapons to punch through their defenses, Zelari telepaths to coordinate the attack, Threx manufacturing to build enough ships, and Valden crystals to maintain communication across the fleet. A plan that emerged was ambitious and dangerous. A massive combined fleet would strike at the galactic core while smaller forces defended key worlds. It would require perfect coordination between species that had never fought together before. 3. Weeks later, the largest military fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the core systems. 500 ships from 7 different species prepared for the most important battle ever fought. Captain Danny Reed stood on the bridge of the UE's Unity, the flagship of the combined fleet. The ship was a marvel of cooperative engineering, built with technology from every member species. Human quantum weapons, Zelari coordination systems, Threx armor plating, and Valden communication crystals all worked together in perfect harmony. All ships report ready, announced Lieutenant Kate Miller from the communications station. Danny looked around his bridge crew. Half were human, but the other half came from across the galaxy. A Zelari navigator used telepathy to coordinate with other ships. A Threx weapons officer managed the quantum disruption arrays. A Valden engineer monitored the crystal communication network. Signal the fleet, Danny ordered. All ships begin the attack. The battle for the galactic core was unlike anything ever seen before. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect coordination, their attacks precisely timed to overwhelm Devourer defenses. Quantum weapons tore through enemy hulls, while conventional forces provided cover and support. But the Devourers had been preparing too. Their command ship was enormous, larger than any space station, and protected by thousands of smaller vessels. As the Allied fleet fought its way toward the core, the enemy threw everything they had into the defense. Danny watched ships from every species sacrifice themselves to protect their allies. A Threx cruiser rammed a Devourer battleship to save a damaged human destroyer. Zelari fighters used telepathic coordination to guide nuclear missiles through enemy defenses. Valden ships shared their shields with damaged vessels from other fleets. Final assault on the Devourer command ship required heroes from every species. Commander Rachel Stone led a team of volunteers on a desperate boarding mission. Her team included humans, Threx warriors, Zelari telepaths, and Valden engineers working together to plant quantum charges inside the enemy vessel. The command ship's destruction created a chain reaction that spread across the Devourer fleet. Without central coordination, the enemy ships began attacking each other or simply stopped functioning. Within hours, the ancient threat that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was finally defeated. But victory came at a terrible cost. Nearly half the Allied fleet was destroyed, and heroes from every species had given their lives for the final assault. The galaxy mourned its losses while celebrating its survival. 6 months after the battle, Danny Reed stood in the same council chamber where Admiral Brooks had first requested humanity's readmission to galactic civilization. But everything had changed. The old Council of 7 species had been replaced by the new Galactic Alliance, which included dozens of species working together as equals. "The threat is over," announced Chancellor Viltar, who had been elected as the first leader of the new alliance. "But we have learned that our strength comes from unity, not isolation." The galaxy began to rebuild, but it was different now. Human colonies welcomed alien settlers. Threx worlds hosted human manufacturing facilities. Zelari telepaths worked alongside human scientists. The old barriers between species had been broken down by shared sacrifice and common purpose. On the old Barabas, joint colony world of new harmony, Human and alien children played together in parks designed by Valden engineers and protected by Threx security forces. They learned about the Great Battle in schools, where teachers from 7 different species worked side by side. The age of legends was truly over. The age of cooperation had begun. Danny Red, now Admiral Red of the Alliance Fleet, often thought about how close they had come to defeat. The galaxy had survived because different species had chosen to trust each other when everything seemed hopeless. The stars were safer now, protected not by the strength of any single race, but by the combined determination of all civilized beings to defend their shared home among the stars. And in the deepest archives of New Harmony, scholars preserved the true story of humanity's return and the great war that followed. They wanted future generations to remember that the greatest victories came not from superior weapons or ancient legends, but from ordinary people choosing to stand together when it mattered most.